Hi guys and welcome back, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how to start exercising, how to start getting active. So first and foremost, if you're already someone who is active, this probably isn't going to be the video for you. This is someone who's starting from couch pretty much 24/7 into trying to get themselves moving. If you do have any suggestions, comments or things to help, then please do add them in the comments below and let me know what's worked for you. So first and foremost, today we are here to talk about the beginning of the journey for me of getting off my ass. As I've already mentioned, I spend a lot of time on the couch or in this chair, whether that be from spending my personal time in gaming, what I like to do in my free time, or whether it be for work. I spend pretty much all my day at work on video calls, and as a result, I'm sat in the chair. When I'm chilling out, I'm either on my sofa or in the chair again gaming. So I've come from doing that for at least the last year and a half, as it has been the same for quite a few people. But in reality, I haven't really done any form of serious exercise in at least a decade, I'd say. I've slowly had more and more reasons not to. My time is precious and I wanted to chill out. As a result, just not really got out and done much movement. The occasional walks, etc., all the kind of stuff you do your day to day, but nothing really active. And that's led me to a point where if I go on holiday vacation, I want to engage in an activity, I'm out of breath quite quickly. I have a son, he's almost 5. And I don't necessarily have an issue with keeping up with him right now, but as he's starting to get stronger and faster, I can see that becoming an issue in the future. I want to be able to play and engage with him without saying daddy's tired and having to quit out early. So there's been a lot of things around why I'm looking to do this, and I think that's what we're going to talk around on today's video and get straight into it around, you know, motivations, goals, and what do you really need to just get started, and what I found from that. So let's start off by talking around motivation. I've already started to touch on it in the first section here. I'm going to start actually with where I've gone wrong in the past and an easy, I guess, trap to avoid. Previously, motivation has very much been led by or come from input from other people, right? And that starts from when we're kids, right? You know, you need to be doing 30 minutes of exercise a day. You're told it by teachers, doctors, you know, parents. Get outside. You've spent enough time on the computer. Get out in the fresh air. External is essentially what I'm getting at. External motivations, and not really something that I've owned myself. And that's true even up until, you know, the last 10 years or so. I've joined gyms and gone a handful of times and then quit because I thought it's the right thing I should do, and I wasn't necessarily doing it for myself. And when that happens, it becomes very easy to create excuses to miss that one time you were going to do it. You were going to do it every Tuesday and Thursday, and that Thursday that came around, you've had a long day at work, it was difficult. Oh, I won't do it today, I'll pick it back up next week. And that becomes because you're not really invested in it yourself. Well, that's what I found for myself personally. As a result of that, when you're not invested, the excuses become quick and fast and follow on. You do it once, it's very easy to do it second, third time until you just end up doing it at all. And I've done that any number of times, whether that's been wanting to go start running, joining the gym like I've mentioned, a five-a-side football team. I've joined and I've quit within weeks usually, and it's something that I don't want to do this time around, and I don't think I will, because I found myself a real motivation, and that is the fact that I just don't want it to suck so much when I am doing an activity. I don't want to feel out of breath. My motivation isn't around physical appearance. I'm not particularly large, I'm not particularly skinny, I don't feel uncomfortable in my own skin, which, you know, I feel lucky in myself. I'm definitely soft in certain areas, don't get me wrong, and could do with hardening up or tightening up in certain areas for sure. But I don't feel like I need to change my body image. I'm more about the stamina side, more about being able to engage in activities and continue to do so. So that's my motivation. And like I said, that's very closely connected to family, right? Whether I'm going on holiday, vacation, just playing with my kid, you know, on a weekend, it's about being able to engage with my family better and enjoy that time. So that's a big motivation for me, and that's why I believe I will be sticking to it this time. However, the video series will track how I'm doing. It's not just going to be all talk. So you guys can see that I stick up with that, which again, I guess links into another part, associating your activities and commitments with someone else. So I'll give you an example. My goals are obviously about stamina. How I'm going to achieve that is around the activities I want to do. So I've started running. I thought that'd be a good one because a lot of the activities I want to do are connected to running. I've also started playing tennis once a week. And this is only the last 3 weeks, bearing in mind. I'm in 3 weeks into the journey so far. And the tennis bit in particular, I've tied that with one of my best friends. We're going to be doing that every Thursday. We've done it in the last 3 Thursdays now for a couple of hours, up until, just straight after work for a couple of hours. We've been doing tennis, getting active, moving, and committing to each other. So getting someone alongside your journey can really be helpful as well. So those days that you really feel like you don't want to, if you're actually committed to someone else to do it and they're urging you and vice versa, that's definitely something I'd recommend. If you can do this journey alongside someone, that's definitely something I think will help with that as well. It's certainly helping with me, just making sure that we are focused, agreeing to do it each week, and making sure that activity. So that's a really good connection for me there as well. So that's really, I guess, a split there of motivation and goal. The motivation for me is about being able to, kick a ball about with my son and not get tired, go on holiday, be able to engage in activities. My goal is actually tied to how I can get there. So my initial goal, what I've got in mind, is being able to run a 5K. That is going to be my initial goal. And it's going to be hard work, bearing in mind. And I'll talk a little bit about how my progress has gone so far. That's going to be my goal, running a 5K. I may then stretch that goal out when I achieve that, and I will achieve it, maybe to running a 10K, for example, etc. But my goal is running a 5K. My second goal is playing tennis to a point where I'm not completely out of breath. I'm starting to skill up as a result. The fitness isn't so much an issue, and I'm starting to get better at it, and enjoy, a competitive sport with my friend where we can engage with that and keep a bit of activity as well. They're my kind of goals that are in mind there. The next bit I think that's worth looking into and really the start of your journey here is, what do you actually need to get started? It sounds a bit strange, particularly if you're doing something as simple as running right. Surely you just need to open the door and get out there. But actually for me, that's not been the case. But you don't need to overthink it as well. So I've kind of put a bit of thought towards, what do you need to start this versus what's nice to have as well, and what I might well get into later down the line. So starting off, the biggest thing for me around running in particular is actually getting a good pair of shoes. It's going to sound silly, right? But a good pair of shoes, running shoes, they don't need to be mega expensive. They just need to be a good, fresh, gripped pair of shoes. And the reason I say that is, before I started this journey 3 weeks ago, I had the idea of doing it last year, maybe October time it was around. And I wanted to start running then. And I had a pair of running trainers that were old, were relatively unused for running, but were really comfortable, and I'd use them for walking. As a result, they had been ground enough that the tread was pretty thin. I went out for a run. It was a pretty hot day. Ground was hard. There was a fine layer of dust on the ground as well where I was running. Long story short, I basically fell over, and I'm talking like it was Looney Tunes style. I was like running on the spot, my legs flying out below me, where I was just skidding, and I went down hard on my knee and caused myself some damage. Now, I actually, in that process, saw my brother-in-law who's a physio, so I was lucky to have someone to take a look, because I was, dragging my leg back. I tried to walk it off, it just didn't work, and I ended up dragging my leg back home after only about 5 minutes of running, mind you. The reality was I ended up impacting the cartilage in between your kind of kneecap and your leg, and even though it wasn't a serious injury, it was painful to even walk like up and down the stairs, and I found out that cartilage takes time to heal. Cartilage gets relatively little blood flow, as a result takes a lot of time to heal, and that was essentially from a result of just not having a good pair of trainers, or overused ones perhaps, and as a result I hurt myself, and I couldn't really walk properly for another 2 weeks, and it took 3 weeks to be comfortable. As a result, that time it took to do that mitigated my enjoyment, emphasis, desire to start running. It just killed it off for me. So this time around, before I even kicked off, I went to a shoe shop. I didn't spend a lot. I'll share. It was around about £100 on these trainers, and they're fantastic. They're really comfortable. It makes it feel easier to run in, and I'm not so concerned about falling over, all things. So that would be definitely one thing I would say is a great investment. The second thing I would say is really good to get your hands on is some kind of software, application, tracker, whatever you want to call it, to be able to monitor your progress. Now, this is something that can be free, and something that is free, the decision I chose to take this time. And I'm using an app on my phone called Strava. You may well have heard of it. There's a paid and a free version. I'm just using the free version, but it allows you to activate or start an activity. You can list which type it is: running, walking, bike, whatever it may be, and it'll time it, measure your distance, your GPS to show your trail, you know, what mile or kilometer per hour you're doing on average, your best laps. It has little achievements in there as well, so if you're doing the same sort of circuit, are you beating your last time? So it's a bit of a motivator for one against the beating yourself as you move forward, but a great way of actually tracking your progress. And this is something I think is really important as well. And we'll talk about the first 3 weeks that I did it, but actually seeing, are you meeting your goals? Are you improving? Or even if it's really hard, can you do a little bit more each time and just move yourself forward? So a tracker like that, I've got it on my phone, Strava, absolutely recommend. I'll add my Strava link in the bottom of today's video. So if you want to add me on there, it'd be great to see how you're doing. You can see how I'm getting on as well, pretty much in real time. And we can, you know, continue this journey together as well. So that would be the equipment I'd say you'd need. It's not extensive, right? A pair of trainers, an app maybe to track your progress. Now, of course, I said I'm also doing tennis, so I went online and bought a tennis racket and some balls as well. I forget how much that was off the top of my head. I think about 30 quid, 30 pounds. It wasn't expensive. And I'm doing that as well, right? But that's if you're deciding to do a specific sport as well. In terms of just getting out there, running, we've covered that. So what else would be great to have? Well, I've got a few friends are very much into fitness, right? So much so that they're leagues away from where I am for sure. But they've got some really cool things that they've used as well, which I think I might look into down the line, you know, like in terms of a bit in-depth fitness tracker. So the kind of smart watches you can get that track, you know, oxygen levels, of course heart rate, and all of these kind of things to actually see your body, how it's performing, how it's increasing as you're practicing and you know, repeating this exercise and getting better. You can track in different levels how that's going. So one that I've been recommended and starting to look into, and I'll probably feature back a bit of a review on it later date, would be the Garmin watches. Obviously there's various different types, but they seem to be universally favored, to be fair as well. But that seems to have a lot of in-depth, and you can actually connect them to a lot of the apps then on your phone and such as well, and have a holistic view of how your fitness is progressing. So that's certainly something I'll look at maybe at a later date down the line. But again, I'm at the beginning of the journey, right? So I've got everything I need for now. The next part I thought would be worth talking about today is probably the area that I've neglected the most so far, and something I'm going to turn my eye to over the next few weeks, which is actually having a regime or a program that you're following from essentially experts, I guess would be the best way to put it, that know how to help you get to your goals. So for example, I've literally been sat on a couch for a long time, right? And I'm wanting to do a 5K. There are programs called Couch to 5K, and I have not looked at them. And that's not a great idea. Again, I'm going to refer back to my first run last year, which went horrendously badly, but I just started running straight out of the house, and even actually, you know, 6-7 minutes in, when I actually fell over, I was already out of breath. And I fell over. I don't know how far I would have got, but I imagine actually not that much further. I was feeling pretty, you know, had a bit of a stitch. Lungs, my capacity was not there. It wasn't great, and I was going to do that same approach this time. And actually, before I went out on my first run, I happened to speak to someone from work who's starting something similar, and had read that actually, just when you're starting, to run for a minute and then stop, even if you feel like you could go on, walk for a minute, and then alternate, run, walk, run, walk. And I did that. And my first run, I was out for about 30 minutes. I'll probably bring it up on screen so you can see what I did. I ran out for about 30 minutes, about 3.5k distance, and you know, I was tired by the end. I was out of breath, but it was manageable. It was certainly much more manageable, and it allowed me to do it for an extended period, right, over half an hour versus probably 10 minutes of giving up otherwise. And I increased that, did that a second time, a third time, and my initial goal that I set myself using that methodology was to actually then get to 5k. So I actually achieved that twice now. I've done that on 2 runs where I've got up to 5k distance with the 1 minute run, 1 minute walk, and that's been good. And now my plan is to increase the amount of run time that's in that, so maybe up it to 1.5 minutes and then 1 minute walk, and move it up from there. In fact, I've got a run schedule for today, so I'll let you know how that goes in the next video, as I'll be looking to up my run time. However, I really should be using a program, and it's something I'm going to look into. And the reason why is I am really going from, you know, not doing any form of exercise, and that means that there's actually more to it. And I've actually spoken to someone since, there's more to it than just being out of breath, your muscles aching, can you actually run the distance literally, right? And that's the fact that there's areas of your body that just aren't used to this movement anymore, if you're really starting from scratch. And that was shown from actually when I did that first 5K distance. I actually then had to skip, and that was last week. I had to skip a few runs. Now I replaced them, and I'll talk about that with another activity, so I kept the momentum going. But I had to stop, and the reason being is, again, leaning back to that cartilage between your kneecap and the leg. The impact of the running, it's not used to it, and it ached a lot. And it actually made me then struggle to do tennis that week. I actually struggle a little bit with getting upstairs on an occasion, just because the impact from the running and that distance and pulling to that quite quickly and increasing, I guess, the amount I was doing quite quickly actually ended up putting me back a little bit. So last week I didn't actually run at all, apart from in my tennis session. And I'm putting it down largely to me not following a program, following some advice, and really making up as I go along. So that's something that I'm absolutely going to change. I'm going to look into it. I know on the NHS, the UK Health Service, there's a free kind of program for Couch to 5K. So I'm going to start and look there, but there's going to be loads out there, right? I'll take a look at a few, but that's certainly one that seems to make sense to take advantage of. And just to try and phase in and actually realize that I'm getting my body and all the things I'm not necessarily thinking about as well used to this new kind of exercise. It's not just the stamina element, there is more to it. So I'm going to be looking into that and making sure that the progress is smoother, and I transition better so I can actually keep it going. Now, as I said, I didn't want to stop activity just because I took a week off from the running. I needed to let my knees heal. So I jumped out on my bike. I have a bike. It's been rarely used in the past, but I jumped out on my bike and did an equally kind of long, in terms of time frame, bike ride, and obviously managed to go much further. I kept this same sort of just keeping my body active, starting to build that stamina up. So I took a couple of runs off and did that. And let's talk about the schedule that I've got in place as well. So I'm sticking to fixed schedule. So in both my calendar, from my family know I'm going to be doing it at these times. My friend on the Thursday, every Thursday we're doing the tennis. My run days are going to alternate outside of that as well. So I have Sunday afternoon is my run day. While I'm building up and don't want to damage my knees again, because I was doing 2 runs a week straight off the bat, I'm going to now have a Tuesday on the bike after work. Just reduce the impact for the short term, and then tennis on a Thursday. So I'm doing 3 kind of activities a week, and then as my running and my body gets used to it, hopefully I'll be able to build that up and have 2 runs. So I'll swap out maybe the bike for a second run. But that's what I'm going to be looking to doing, and I'll share the progress as we go for there. So that's really everything I wanted to look to touch today, guys. Just to get a recap, make sure you have your motivation aligned to you, not necessarily someone else telling you should be doing it. It means a lot more to me this time because it's coming from me. I'm doing it for me and my family. So make sure the motivation you're doing it is for you. The second one is, of course, having a goal in mind that's attached to that. So that can be, obviously, for me, starting off by hitting a 5K, but making sure it's a goal that's important to you, whatever you wanted to do around that, sport perhaps, anything like that. Equipment doesn't need to be extensive. You can go all in. I'm sure there's lots more things I'm going to find out in the way that you can use, but you just need, maybe a good pair of trainers, and something to track your progress. I'd say is a great start point. And yeah, I'll report back on a program I'm going to follow, but there's going to be tons out there as well, guys, right? So you can choose a program that works for you, that takes in line. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Please hit the subscribe, follow button, so you can see when the next one comes out. This is going to be a journey. It's going to go across time. And if you've got any comments, suggestions that you think might help, and that I could feature in future videos, please comment below, and we'll continue to go through together. Catch you on the next video. Peace.